Transformers aren't just robots, they are alien robots, but they are terrible aliens and are really just big metal transforming humans. I'm going to explain why Transformers suck at being aliens, while also point out that we don't want them to be proper aliens, we actually like them to be very human-like. So this video will go beyond their human-like appearances to point out cultural similarities and similar behavioral patterns. For how the Transformers look, most of them look very human with a few variations. Most have 2 eyes, 2 arms, 2 hands, 2 legs. Their hands have fingers and a thumb, sometimes identical to the average human's 4 fingers, 1 thumb per hand. Even one-eyed bots like Shockwave have a mecha-human silhouette. When it comes to animals, the robots are based on Earth animals and mythological creatures, so they aren't likely to be obscure alien animals. On the whole, you can look at any Cybertronian and could have imagined they were built by humans. But that isn't supposed to be the case in Transformers. They live on planet Cybertron, and in some continuities, they're not built in a factory, but are given form and soul by a godlike creator. They could be silver moldable blobs, they could be terrifying mishmashes of metal, but instead, they are Earth animals or humanoid bipeds 99% of the time. They might have clothes and crowns, mustaches and beards, boobs, eyelashes, noses, hairstyles, and lips with or without lipstick. And it's funny because sometimes people argue that there shouldn't be female robots because they are robots, but no one is talking about how in so many senses, these are just men dipped in chrome. It's too late, we ruined how alien they can be. But we don't care, that's not the point. The robots look human because the audience wants the characters to be hot. I mean, relatable. That's really it, they look human because we like them that way. People want to ship the robots, they want to be the robots. And then we give the robots human facial expressions so they are completely readable. When we watch them, we understand how these robots are feeling. If Transformers had body language and facial expressions completely different from ours, then Transformers wouldn't be nearly as entertaining, because the moods the story wants to convey would be lost on us. Imagine a show where no characters ever smiled or twisted their faces in rage. It would be boring, but it would be more realistic to aliens whose bodies move in different ways. You might even wonder why robots have mouths, teeth, and sometimes tongues in the first place when their voices are produced by their voice boxes, and they could insert their fuel into them no differently than a car. Here is a quick list of common behaviors that aliens are not likely to do. Kiss, cry, smile, frown, laugh, nod, shrug, wave, and point with their index finger. These actions seem so normal to us that you might think, why wouldn't they do these things? But think about how many other animals on Earth don't do what we do. We humans are the weird ones here. With kissing, there isn't an explanation as to why robots would find touching their face holes to each other to be peak affection. Why not forehead touches, nuzzling, long hugs? They only kiss because we think it's normal to the point that we don't usually question it. Crying might be questioned, though, for some reason, with shows like Rescue Bots making the claim that Transformers don't cry, and other shows like Robots in Disguise 2015 do show it.
Blades, we don't cry, remember?
Speak for yourself.
There isn't an explanation either why their species would be adapted to show sadness with lubricant leaking from their eyes instead of their elbows, but we certainly feel more sad for a cute, sniffling Transformer instead of one deadpan robot with leaking knees. Smiling is in fact aggression to many animal species because they are showing their fangs, but Transformers would disturb us if they didn't laugh or smile despite having a humanoid face. And emotional scenes need to make an impact. For anyone who knows the live-action Lion King, the top complaint was how boring the movie was because the characters just didn't show emotion. The animals were too realistic, and it wasn't fun to watch. Cybertronian society is also very similar to many Earth societies. They have casinos, courtrooms, police, fire rescue, hospitals, libraries, theaters, laboratories, amusement parks, factories. Like anything that exists in our world exists in theirs. Transformer society nowadays is described as like ours but with a strict caste system and less organization in things like the judicial system. Generally, a Transformers courtroom has little rules, no lawyers, and the accused bot has to stand up for themselves while one or more bots judge what they are saying. Transformers also have religions and hobbies. They might get hammered at a bar or lose their minds at a sports match. They gamble and play games like cards and something like chess. All these things kind of make sense to us though. A society capable of space travel should have cities and governments, and if they have sentience and emotion, these people need entertainment. We made their ways of having fun similar to ours, but a teensy bit different. They aren't playing football, but they are playing Cube, a whole other game with different rules. That's pretty neat, isn't it? I personally love seeing these characters enjoying things like we do. It's funny seeing them dance and get drunk. To me, these characters are like cool versions of humans with strong bodies, weapons, flight modes, tank modes, beast modes, etc. As robots, I don't have to think about them growing old and dying, except for that one time, going to the bathroom, having babies, or any other things about humans that make me uncomfortable. I can enjoy them in the moment, fighting a war for as long as that takes, and not until Optimus and Megatron die of old age. I can avoid sexual tension and simply see romantic relationships. Transformers, despite how human they are different and appealing in a certain way. That's why we just don't make them straight up humans. They come from a metal world of colorful lights, they are mighty and can power up or change shapes, so they are so badass that to then see them have little sleepies or smoochies makes us find those moments even more adorable. Sometimes, the scarier you design a character, the cuter it is when they try to do something sweet. So with all this said, Transformers are going to remain devilishly handsome, they're going to have gender and societies and struggles similar to ours, because Transformers was made to entertain humans. It's not a cultural documentary.